third season of the Power Bomb Project. And I am one of your hosts, Daniel, joined by my other two hosts.
It's Berman.
Hey, Chris, your king and savior of this podcast.
All right,
Thank you.
sure about that one. Anyways, y'all, bringing to you another non-wrestling video, and it is going to be the MCU Phase 3 review. We talked about the first phase, decent start, but there were a bit of bad movies in there. And the second phase was an improvement, pretty good, but not quite perfect. But now we're on to the golden goose out of all the phases right here. The phase that had Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, basically some of their biggest successes to date. And some critical acclaim movies like Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok. So quite a critically acclaimed vase, I guess you could call it. Does that does it all live up though? Does it live up to the hype? We are here to answer that question. And we are kicking things off with the first film, Captain America: Civil War. Criticized the film for kind of being smaller scale than it is in the comics. In the comics it's like hundreds and hundreds of superheroes, but if we're looking at the film here, it's basically a 6v6. And I know that might be kind of underwhelming on the surface here, but honestly, what you get instead is a film that kind of carries on the overall narrative in the Infinity Saga. And it does that while having perfect introductions for characters like Black Panther and Spider-Man, planting them right into the franchise pretty much as great as they can. The movie has a lot of fun action, and the long-term story payoff again with Iron Man finding out who killed his parents and gain that sort of clarity, even if it's not the answers he wanted. And then it's also kind of some character growth for Captain America as well. Dealing with the whole uh, you know political issue that separates all the Avengers. And yeah, all I could really say is maybe the MCU could have waited on this film, could have added more heroes into the mix and made it a bigger deal. But that's really my only critique. I think it's a fantastic film. Again, it's just a lot of fun. It has a lot of emotional weight in the final fight between Captain America, Iron Man, and Bucky. And, Cap thankfully sparing Iron Man, which obviously was the right thing to do at the end of the day. The Tony Stank joke is easily one of my favorite jokes in an MCU film. Uh, it's a great one. And then, yeah, all I can really say again is just I feel like just about everything in this film was done right. Not too much to complain about here. And it's a film I have watched multiple times, and I can say I'll probably watch it multiple times again in the future. Overall, I'm going to be giving this film a 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, this was a great movie myself. I was really excited as soon as I heard a trailer coming up. I'm like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see how they did it." And they put so many great efforts. Black Panther, Spider-Man, and it's not like an introducing of him, but an introduce of it to the Avengers, and that's the Ant-Man. Technically, he was only in his own movie. Now he's in a movie with other superheroes. So you see the Ant-Man in this kind of form with other people, which is really cool. I love all the emotions that happen. It was a great storytelling with Captain Ross and like Iron Man, siding with Captain Ross, and Captain America trying to side against him. It was great. I love how the conflicts between Bucky or Captain America and Iron Man apart. It was great and emotional. Was just amazing when I two parts gave me a lot of emotions. One was when Vision shot Rhodes down was brutal because it looked like it almost killed him. It just made me shocked when I saw that. And then the other one when Bucky uses his arm to kind of press into the arc reactor trying to pull his heart out. It was super brutal and really emotional to see how that it could really have been killed. be a killed either Iron Man or Rhodes on that. But it was even if great. Definitely 9.5 out of 10 for me. One of the best movies.
This is one of the greatest movies, but I have one criticism: that Captain America should have just killed Iron Man, and he should have done it because no one likes Iron Man. And if you actually sided with this man, you have mental problems. All right, everything he
Quit
said
the
of
cap.
siding. No, you quit the cap
Quit the cap.
because Captain Iron Man is a communist spy who wants to side with the government. I don't think so. I'm not gonna allow it.
Okay. He did side with the government, but he had good intentions behind it.
Dude, he's a sellout. That's why he dies. That's why everyone
Okay.
dies. But
Everyone. Okay. They switch up.
and also too, real quick, this is like the only film where Black Panther was actually good. He was only good in this film. And once we get to him, I'll go more in detail with it. This is literally the best adaptation of Black Panther. But we'll get there when we get there. This movie's a classic. It's great, but again, it has nothing to. I wish it was bigger, like you said, in scale with the heroes. But I get it. Like realistically, the comics and the movies aren't going to be the same, especially seeing that all the Marvel heroes are still copyrighted, and there's stuff from like DC and all this other crap in the comics. I could be wrong about that, but it's a good movie. But again, he should have killed Tony Stark, but it's fine.
What would you rate the film?
A 9.
All right. Now, we move on to Doctor Strange. Now, I thought this was a sleeper hit. I thought it was a very good film. The visuals were phenomenal, and to this day, still one of the best looking Marvel movies out of the MCU. It is very consistent from start to finish within tone. There might be some jokes here and there, but it overall has a pretty serious tone within its story that kind of flows from start to finish pretty well. Stephen Strange is a character you won't really root for in the beginning, but he is someone that you are going to root for in the end. And yeah, I could say the Ancient One's little death and story, that was pretty unique and awesome as well. Overall, just a bunch of cool shit about this film that I can really say. I feel like there might have been some really cool concepts that could have been explored even more than they were. And maybe it does focus a bit too much on setting up other future releases here and there. And I know that's a thing that's just going to typically happen in the MCU, and that's fine. It is what it is. But yeah, overall, very good film. I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, it's probably one of my favorites in the one. It's not to me. I would call it more of a hit because I think Stranger Things is just great visuals. I love how like it looks like you're going through a kaleidoscope, like how they do this, making the world. It's kind of like a kaleidoscope. It's great. The tone is interesting. How he's trying to fix his arms, but his hands, but he feels like he can't. He's miserable without his hands, which is interesting. And the ancient one was really interesting. Now the villain, something else too. Danny didn't mention that much. Is that the villain? It was kind of like two villains in one, but it was kind of forgettable of the villain because you don't know his name. It's really hard to know his name, but he's a cool villain, and the actor who does it is perfect. I know he's great. He does Hannibal in the show, and I think he did a great job. Stephen Strange, great actor, played him, and it worked perfectly. And I think the movie had great fights, and Dormammu, the ending with Dormammu with Stephen Strange
Yeah,
probably one of the
Dormammu.
biggest.
Yeah.
Was the biggest. Like everyone loves quoting that or saying like, "Hey, Dormammu, I have a deal," and just keeps on repeating, 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 repeating like infinity. It's super great. I think to me this is probably one of my probably second favorite movie in the whole Phase 3, and I'd probably give this an 8.5 for me.
All right, Chris. Now your take.
Like I said, the story wasn't much. I mean, actually, no, that's not true. The beginning of Doctor Strange's tragic tale of his wife, and as you know, he's kind of a piece of crap in the beginning of the movie, but as he like learns more of his training or whatever, it's good. And the only criticism with Doctor Strange is the villain's very weak. I mean, he was just like what, like a space like cosmic being or whatever. for
It
what I
was two
remember.
villains. There was two villains. One was Dormammu, who's pretty much a god of his realm, and then the other villain was a kind of a an evil wizard. I'm gonna call it an evil sorcerer who wanted to
I
kill
like
the
that.
one.
Yeah, but
It was very forgettable. That's what I think, but it kind of sucks.
I will admit the first time viewing the movie, I got pretty excited, but I was mistaken because I mistaked him for Galactus for like a hot second. And if we ever get to that part of the MCU, that would be amazing. But back to the Black Doctor Strange was pretty good. It was okay. It was a 7. The character was great. Villains is kind of weak. And like Daniel and you said before, it's too much of a setup for other movies. But I get it. It's strange. The visuals are great. It's a good watch. So 7.
Fair. Now, we move on to the third movie in the third phase, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Now, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, as I said on my Phase 2 review, is one of my absolute favorite Marvel films to date. I think it is perfect in every sense of the word. Now, this film isn't as strong, but with that being said, this is still a great film. It is a true sequel to the first part. And what I mean by that is it feels like it has, kind of the same nature that the first film has. But it's kind of looking a bit more into certain characters in this film, like Peter and Rocket, kind of giving them a bit more of a perspective on their characters as well. And Yondu kind of having a bit of a redemption arc in this film was honestly fantastic. And I think Yondu was one of the best parts of this entire film. Dave Bautista is Drax, is, in my personal opinion, one of the funniest parts in all of Marvel. Honestly, he absolutely kills it in this film with the comedic timing, with just the dialogue he has. It's all just fantastic, and I understand why Dave Bautista kind of hates the direction Drax went. In Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Infinity War and all the other films, he kind of hates who Drax is now, and I get that. I do, but honestly, I do think there is a lot of fun to be had with this version of Drax. Definitely not the most powerful version, but it's a very fun version. Now, Ego might not be the strongest villain the MCU has ever had, but I think it does the job, and Echo is a good villain. I mean, not Echo, Ego. Fucking, yeah, I meant Ego. Yeah, Ego is a good villain overall from start to finish. And, you know, uh, on first watch, I'll admit maybe I should have expected it, but I was kind of caught by surprise, by the whole twist about his father and everything. Now, this is what I'll admit. There were a few moments that were kind of cheesy for my personal taste. And that might be the main critique I have for the film overall. There are a few other nitpicks I could say, but I'm not going to go too deep into them because that's just really eating time. I will say this though: Yondu, Peter, Rocket, and Nebula, those four specifically have a lot of character growth and development. I mean, every character in a way does, but it really feels like the movie does its best to kind of focus more on those four. And I think that was the right call for this film. And outside of a few, clunky moments, it's visually a pleasing film. Maybe not on the level of Doctor Strange, but it's a very good looking film. So, yeah, with all that being said, I think this is a great movie. I think it's definitely worth the watch. And I think the ending is one of the best endings to in an MCU film quite yet. Maybe not quite on the level of the Infinity War Endgame endings or Winter Soldier ending, but it's quite a great ending. And it's definitely just as strong of an ending as the first film had, in my opinion. So overall, I'm going to give this film an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah. So for me, the first film, I was actually never a big fan of them, and I know it probably is gonna be blasphemy for me, and I maybe that's something else. It was never my type of thing. Guardians of the Galaxy, not my thing, but they did a good job in the movie. I was never hated it, but I never like was super anticipated. This movie was not super anticipated myself too, but it was not that bad for my standards. It's good villain. I just didn't really care about the villain. I kind of wish they did a different villain that maybe people would be more interested to watch. Maybe they could have probably just done Thanos. Maybe brought like a little piece of him, like maybe one of the Black Order characters there. But it's not that bad. Jax was fun. I love Batista in any type of movies. Yandu was probably one of my favorites out of him because he was trying to be a good guy, not trying to be an asshole dad, pretty much. So that was good. I think they had a good job with all the character developments and stuff. Too cheesy, my points of time. I don't like that much of cheesiness or action for me. So I'll probably give this a 7 for me for Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it was a good movie, but not to how I like these type of like superhero movies.
And I I don't necessarily think it was the worst movie, but the main issue I had is like this film I thought was kind of unnecessary, and here's why. Like obviously the first film was very important because they're talking the introduction of the Infinity Stones. I mean, right? Which kind of leads
Yes.
to a lead up, and then essentially all this movie really does is like it says that like Starla gains powers, but you never really see that ever again in any of the other movies. Like it's fine for what it is. It's okay. I didn't really care for the dad too much. I kind of saw it coming. It was like, oh my god, it was his dad the entire time. But honestly, I don't think this movie should have been made because again, it's just filler for Infinity War, and we don't really see much of the powers being used. There are some good moments here and there, but it's not as good as the first movie. So I'm just gonna give it a 5 for what it is.
All right. Now, the next film is Spider-Man: Homecoming. I think it's a pretty good film. Tom Holland as Spider-Man fits right into the MCU, just like he did in Civil War. And honestly, Tom Holland does a really good job at perfectly adapting the personality of Peter Parker, and is the right blend of being serious and being funny for the character. And there's a beautiful flow within the tone throughout the film from start to finish, really feeling like I'm watching a Spider-Man film. Michael Keaton as Vulture does a great job. I think he's a great villain, easily one of the best in the MCU. And I will say this: there were maybe too many moments where I thought they were trying to be a bit too funny for their own good, or they were just kind of getting a bit too over the top with it. And I think the comedy just doesn't really hit for me in some aspects. And I will admit, I've had an issue for quite a long time about there being no mention of Uncle Ben, Peter's upbringing, or Peter's parents. But the thing I ultimately realized is that this whole universe isn't exactly on the original Earth. So everyone's origin stories are kind of changed up in a way. And that is something to be kind of brought up to the table here. So, yeah, it does kind of disappoint me that there's like not really that Uncle Ben stuff and all that, because that's just what I like about Spider-Man. I'm kind of a sucker for all that shit. But yeah, it's understandable. It's something a bit unique and different, kind of having Aunt May play the Uncle Ben role in a way, and we'll explain why in a future video why that is. But yeah, all I can really say is that it's a very good film. I love how Iron Man was utilized in the film as well, and yeah, that's all I can really say about it. Ned is a great, a dumb best friend in a way, and yeah, I kind of like that Peter has, Ned there to kind of just be not, kind of like this. It's hard to explain. Harry's kind of just as smart as Peter. It's kind of nice to see Peter kind of have a friend that's, not quite on that same level as him. I think that's just kind of a more fun dynamic, in my personal opinion, on the big screen over time. And trust me, I love Harry Osborn as a character and all that stuff. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying I enjoyed this different take as well. So overall, I'm going to give this film a 7.5 out of 10. It's not the best Spider-Man film, but it's a pretty enjoyable one.
Yeah, this movie is pretty good. I did love how Tom Holland did the Spider-Man. He definitely jumped right in there. He perfectly worked. He's this like teenager, and to me, I gotta say, he's probably the best kind of fit into everyone. Everyone loves him because this takes place more in school than any other Spider-Man. Spider-Man regular and it's Amazing Spider-Man both didn't involve a lot of school, but a lot of outside the school, like more around college or outside of the work or something. So like Tom Holland did more in high school, like studying and homework. You can see more. It's so more for the kids and more for teenagers in school, more relatable. So it's pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, my favorite of all time of Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire, one of my favorites. But he did a great job. Vulture, perfect. I always love how he did this Vulture, the mechanical Vulture wings and everything. Perfect. It was interesting that yeah, the absence of Uncle Ben was interesting, and the absence of Harry Osborn. You don't even hear his name or Osborn in general. So it's interesting that there's no Harry Osborn or Uncle Ben in that scenario. So it's kind of interesting. I like that it was it was really off, and it kind of shows that this is a multiple universes. This is a universe where you don't see these people, and I think this is a great Spider-Man movie. And up to coming, this is probably the first movie that a lot of people love Spider-Man more than the other two. I would say, but I give this a 7.5 too.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you guys. Spider-Man: Homecoming, it was good. I mean, there was a lot of setup, and then again, it wasn't too crazy, but it was decent. Needed to be what it needed to be.
I
Vulture was great.
actually,
What's up?
sorry to cut you off,
You're
but
good.
I actually don't feel like every single thing from the MCU needs to be like a big scale thing. Honestly, I do like the smaller scale projects if done right.
I can agree. And then also too, Flash Thompson was great. I mean, that's the one thing I really liked it because in the other original films he wasn't really a part of like the main story. But he was great. And then he actually gets a redemption more like towards the other films when we get down later on. Ned's great. MJ I was about to say MGF, god damn it. Mary Jane is great too. It's just a decent movie, so it's an 8. That's all I can really say, man.
All right, an 8. Cool, cool, cool. That's probably the most positive one so far, besides Civil War.
Civil War's
Um,
peak Marvel.
Now we move on to this movie, Thor Ragnarok. Now, after the success of Guardians of the Galaxy, they wanted to take the Guardians of the Galaxy humor and tone and transfer it to the Thor series, because the first two films were not really just arguably, but were honestly a failure for the MCU. Sure, the first film might be decent in retrospect, but if we're thinking about the cash that can be made in the future, by the time it hit 2015, 2016, people were done with Thor kind of being the way he was on the big screen. They wanted something different and new for the character. And that's exactly what Thor Ragnarok has to offer. Now, it is a character growing movie for Thor, just like the first two kind of are, but I feel like the growth in this film is kind of showcased in a way better light than the first two films were able to showcase. Now, it also features the Hulk, and it doesn't just feature the Hulk, but the Hulk is practically a main character in this film as well. And the utilization of Hulk in this film is fantastic. Him being gone since Age of Ultron and kind of just fighting in this Coliseum. It's really fun, and the whole Thor and Hulk fight was really fun. Loki being involved in the film too was great, but the part I loved most was that Thor was finally able to see through Loki's bullshit, which is again kind of a part of his character growth. He still loves his brother, but he's not afraid to really see through him anymore, because he's faked his death so many times by now. And the introductions of, you know, the Grandmaster. That's all I'm going to refer to. If you all know who that is, then great. Yeah, the Grandmaster was really fun, and the introduction of Valkyrie was done very well, and she was a very likable character in this film. And you know, all I could say is with the humor that Hulk and Loki and all the other characters had to offer, it made this film feel quite unforgettable. And the after credits scene, which does lead into Infinity War, is perhaps one of my favorite after credit scenes ever. It's just magnificent. And yeah, maybe at times the film can be too lenient on the comedy to carry the entire film. But I wouldn't really say that's entirely the case. And I will say this: you had Butcher from The Boys play as Scourge, and I feel like for how great of an actor he is, I don't really watch The Boys, but I know he's a great actor. And for what it's worth, I feel like you could have given that guy a better role than what they gave, for being quite honest here. And his sacrifice was pretty forgettable. I honestly had to rewatch the film to actually remind myself, oh, all right, this guy sacrificed himself. Okay. And yeah, that was basically my reaction to it as well. And with all that being said, the action looks incredible. The scene where Thor is fighting a dragon just is easily one of the visually one of the most impressive scenes in any of these movies. So, yeah, I just gotta say it. One of the best Marvel films. I'd put it in my top 10. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah. For me, I did like the movie. It was not that bad. I loved the Hulk. It was funny how they did bring the Hulk as a gladiator. It was great to see Loki just coming out of nowhere and say, "Hey, I'm not dead anymore." It's funny how they did that. All the I like Valkyrie. It was very fun to see her. First time I saw her, I'm like, I couldn't recognize her. Then I recognized, oh, it's Valkyrie from the comic books and stuff. Which I think they did a great job introducing her. Everyone likes her, and in the next movie, she gets a lot more recognition. Or in Avengers, you've seen more of her. Definitely great credit scene. After credit scene, amazing how they did that. Kind of sucks. Scourge didn't go like too awful, and it sucks that kind of Scourge is not supposed. He's supposed to be more with Enchantress. Well, not yeah, Enchantress. Sorry, yeah. So it's kind of weird they didn't bring her in here yet, which is she's like one of those helpers of Loki, which is kind of surprising they have not brought her in yet because Scourge is kind of her bodyguard, which like that's kind of strange to see Scourge there. But I think it was a great movie, very funny how they did it. It was never one of my it was not one of my big favorite movies, but it was fairly okay to its points. So I definitely give this an 8.5 for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it short and simple. Thor Ragnarok is great. You said it needed to be said, but the next one, I'm excited to do the next one. So go watch Thor Ragnarok. I can't say any more than these boys. So it's gonna get like an 8 out of 10 for me.
Okay. You know what, Chris?
Yes.
Let's let you talk first.
No, you go first.
Why?
I'll go third like the usual. It's fine.
All right. So Black Panther. Now we're gonna warn you, viewers. There may be some racism showcased by Chris.
That's
If
bullshit.
you are bothered by that, then you might need to click off this video.
Why are you trying to fucking
right?
cancel me? I haven't even said
But-
anything yet.
I'm prepared.
It's forewarning.
Yeah, it's a warning for
It's
our
a warning
viewers.
that you can't handle the truth.
We'll see what truth we're talking about. But if you want some truth, this is the very first film to feature an entirely black team outside of a few white people. But yeah, nearly all black soundtrack, nearly an all black cast. And the film is the first one in that category to make over $1 billion in the theaters. And yeah, the soundtrack itself, you had songs by Kendrick Lamar and featuring SZA, featuring The Weeknd. You had a song with him and Travis Scott. Overall, it's a fun soundtrack. I'm not going to say it's a magnificent soundtrack, but it's good. It's a good soundtrack. Now, the tone and story hit successfully. Wakanda, I gotta say, it's not a real place, but damn, I wish it was, because the film just looks great. The film just looks great. They put a lot of detail into making Wakanda look like this, great place, and they did their job. And now there's one thing I gotta say here. This is a hot take, but maybe it's not. This has the best MCU villain in a Marvel film. Yes, better than Thanos. Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. He brings the A game in this movie. This is a career defining performance for him. And I know he's been in Creed, he's been in a lot of other movies, and I love the Creed movies as well. But my point being is Michael B. Jordan put so much passion, so much effort, and so much care into this character that honestly, I don't see any other version of Killmonger other than the version that Michael B. Jordan played. This is a performance that is still 4 years later stuck with me as one of the greatest villain performances to date. He's not someone who's super crazy or super insane, besides maybe wanting to kill everyone like the some usual villains does, but he actually kind of has motivations and reasons that make sense. And overall, he is someone who went through the same trauma that Black Panther went through, but it's just in a different light. And he's taken his frustrations out in a different way and in a different vein. And yeah, the ending of him killing himself, he'd rather die than ever being put into a prison by, his enemies. And it's just a very powerful ending overall about, the character in general. And yeah, I will say this: Civil War is the best film that has written the Black Panther character, and that is quite unfortunate considering this is Black Panther's film. But Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, still does a great job. Now, this isn't a perfect film though. T'Challa had more development in Civil War than Black Panther, and that in itself is not a good thing. And I will say there was a fight at the end of the film and it was just one sequence of the entire fight, thankfully. But it was when it looked like they were in some kind of train station, and it just looked like a PS2 video game. It just did not look that good. So, with those things being admitted, this is a great film. And maybe it's not on the same level as Infinity War and Endgame and Civil War, but this is a great film. Overall, 8 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, I loved the Black Panther. It perfectly worked. The Wakanda just looked so beautiful. How they made these gigantic cities and just looked so different from they go to Tokyo. I think it's Tokyo, Japan. No wait, Tokyo or China. I forgot. I think it's Tokyo. They go there and it looks completely different from Wakanda. Wakanda looks more futuristic than Tokyo, so it shows how good the contrast between these two are just perfect. And Killmonger, same. I'm gonna give. Danny talked a lot about this. I'm going to take a little bit. And yeah, definitely Killmonger character, Michael B. Jordan, amazing. Every time I watch this movie, it gives me chills because of how good his acting is and how great he is. He had good intentions in the movie, trying to say, "Hey, we need to support people outside of outside of our people. We need to support people outside of our own Wakanda," and that's perfect. And I think that's great how they showed it, how his voice and how his end was was really tragic. Trying to say, "Hey, it was." Liked how T'Challa said so he said like, "Oh, my father said that Wakanda has the most beautiful view." He brought him to the view to show him for his last dying breath, and I love that part, showing that hey, at least he's a good person, showing how he's not gonna kill him instantly or something, which he believes that he was a good person, but he just wanted to say, "Hey, I don't want to be in a cage," and he wanted him to throw him in the ocean like all his brothers died on the ships, which is resembled to to all the slavery that happened. So it was really great showing of that, and I loved the movie. Soundtrack was amazing how they showed it. I loved Suri. I think yeah, her Suri, great. I love her kind of comedic. She got a lot of the like, what are those sandals and stuff. I love how she puts a lot of comedic into like a comic relief, and I love how she did that. Black Panther is one of my favorite movies. Probably top three out of the Marvel Series 3. Definitely probably give this an 8.5 for me.
All right, so I'm gonna be civil about this as humanly possible, but this movie is extremely overrated. And not just because, listen, I will admit Killmonger is a great villain, but he doesn't actually do anything until like half of the movie. And if anything, mostly the main guy is I'm gonna say this wrong, Ulysses Kala. however you say it,
Alicia's Claw.
Galicia's Claw. Listen, man, whatever the hell his name is. Point being, Killmonger's good.
T'Challa.
Whatever. He's in the Killmonger's not even the main villain in this fucking movie until halfway in. Okay, and if we're being honest here, I don't care if this
Only
movie
quarter
has.
in, but okay.
I don't care if this movie is 100% black team people. I don't give a shit about that. That doesn't matter. That shouldn't give the movie an extra point of credit just because they did that. Big whoop. Other movies do it too.
I'm not saying it does. I'm just pointing out the fact, and
No,
I think it's a cool fact.
I think
It's
it's a cool.
history making.
I know it's history making, and I'm not going to deny it. But then again, I don't care about this stuff. I just care about the villain, the main movie itself. Now, T'Challa, he was great in Civil War, alright? But throughout this whole fucking movie, this man is literally simping for his love interest the entire time. It's just like, oh my god, I gotta do whatever it takes to get this lady. Alright. And the music soundtrack's great. Kendrick Lamar puts
That's
out a
not the main
banger.
focus of the film, though.
It's not the main focus of the film, but that was like a good like 30 to 40 minutes of the main movie, and I'm just like, I don't care. I don't give a crap about the love interest.
I really doubt it was that much.
It felt that
No,
long.
It was 10 minutes, maybe, at least.
It felt like
Yeah.
10 hours to me, man. And I'm just saying off the bat, what I wanted the Black Panther from Civil War, okay? That guy was actually cool and did something. I mean, throughout this whole movie, he's just getting his ass kicked left and right. And it's just like, why? Like, no hate to the actor, he's great, and it's real sad that he passed away. But if it wasn't for the moment that people were making this like the most modern, most important film in the MCU, they're capping, alright? They're just saying that because of the obvious reason, dude. And don't fucking cancel me for this. But I feel like if they would have never made the main focus of the whole entire movie and everything made by, you know, the African Americans, this movie would have not blown up. Half the time, none of these people would have came if he wasn't the main part of it. And you know, goddamn it, I'm gonna say it. This movie is just the Lion King, and you can fucking cancel me all you want, but it's not
That's
because
racist.
no, you can't cancel it. No, it's not racism, dude, because it's literally the same plot as Lion King. I'm gonna put the link in the description of the video because literally, if you go back to forth, it's like the
No,
sun.
don't do
No,
that, dude.
no,
That
no,
was
no,
just
no, 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 no.
that's
You're not
fucking racist
canceling.
bullshit.
It's not racist. You're
And
not.
no,
It is
no,
racist bullshit.
It's not racist bullshit. You're not canceling me.
no, we're not allowing that crap in our
It's
scripts.
no,
No,
no.
just don't. You already said it. Leave it go, or else we're gonna start doing more crap to you than you don't want to.
Guys, you just don't want to admit it, and it's not. I don't care. I'm not racist at all, right? I'm only saying it's the same fucking movie because literally it's the same kind of plot. Where two sons fight over the kingdom, all right. They have a father that fucking dies. They have a ritual that determines who the next king is. The son ultimately gets
Like,
sent off to a different universe.
Lion King.
The hyenas are his fucking henchmen. All right, man. For God's sakes, he's like Scar. For God's sakes. Dude, you can't deny that. And that's not even being racist. It's literally the same fucking. If you think this is racist, that's dumb. Because you're saying that
No,
they're those characters, and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the plot and the Lion King are kind of similar.
why would you even could make that comparison in the first place?
It's
dog?
not a, but it's a good movie though. I'm just saying it's not very original. There's many
So is
aspects.
Black Panther.
Black Panther is okay. It's not worth all the hype. That's all I'm saying. It's overrated. Also, this is parody, so if we ever make it big, you can't fucking cancel me because I'm Mexican. So there you go. I win.
Rating.
Thank you. It's getting a 4. Below average.
Okay. Now let's move on to one of the best films in cinema history. Avengers Endgame. Yes, that sentence sounds cursed, but it's legitimate. This is one of the best films of all time. And I don't really need to say too much. You all know this film. You've all seen this film. It's just perfect. Thanos in this film is perfect. Thor in this film is my personal favorite Thor out of all the films. Just fantastic. The Iron Man and Spider Man, duo is just very amazing and fun on screen. And Spider Man's character continues to grow in this film, and so does Iron Man. Um, and you can make the argument that Cap and Bucky kind of play background characters, but they don't later on, and I always kept that in mind, and I always knew that. And they still did some kick-ass shit in the action fights, so it's not like they didn't play a role whatsoever. Now, and Cap showdown with the Thanos as well. He had a little 1v1 with Thanos in the end as well. So you can't really deny Cap's importance in the film. And, they went out of his way to go look for him, knowing he's one of the biggest assets to the Avengers. So again, it's all leading to stuff for him. So with all the other stuff being said, I love how all the other characters were utilized in this film. It felt like a big crossover event, and it basically felt like what the first two Avengers films wanted to accomplish but just didn't. So yeah, overall perfection. It's an S tier film, 10 out of 10. All I could give it. That is my rating. Just perfection.
Yeah, it was just way too great. I remember watching it. I was at the opening premiere, and I got a coin for it. I always keep it with me, and it was just one of the best movies I watched. The all the fight scenes, all the characters had great developments. Thor was great. How he was. The main thing that was cool when he was trying to forge his new hammer, his new axe. I would say it was so good. Stormbreaker, way too good to see that dying star forge and the dwarf too that was there. It was great. I love the Captain America stories. I love the Iron Man story at the same time. And with them going into Wakanda, amazing. It was just way too good. And the snap was one of the biggest things. Everyone started like tearing up and stuff because of how bad it could have been. It was just way too good. Definitely an S tier, 100%, 10 out of 10.
This movie's S tier. Not only is this the S tier, guys, I actually went with a buddy to California all the way to the TCL Chinese Theater in Los Angeles just to watch this movie, and that's all I have to say. If I'm willing to drive 4 hours just to go see one movie, either I'm a sellout or it's a good movie, or a little bit of both. So it's next year. That's all I gotta say, me.
Yeah, I saw opening night as well. Just, man, incredible. Incredible. Now, these next two films, I'm really going to try to make this all short and sweet because these two films aren't really worth that much time, in my opinion. Next, Ant-Man the Wasp. Not a horrible film. It's fine. It's fine for what it is. We get to learn a bit more about the quantum realm, and there's a really good post-credit scene as well, with Ant-Man's family getting snapped while Ant-Man's stuck in the quantum realm. That's just a really cool way to lead into Endgame. Um, but yeah, my big issues is that it's kind of generic within the storytelling, action, and all of it. And that's just all I can really say. Like I feel like the comedy isn't quite up to par on the first film, and for the most part, it's just a generic film. That's really all I could say. It's kind of just a generic film. Uh, the and yeah, overall, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 10.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty good. I never really liked the movie. And it was never happy. I was never anticipated the movie in general. And the big thing is that we didn't even talk about it, and that's how forgettable it is. And the freaking villain, the ghost, so forgettable. We didn't even talk about it. That's shows how that villain doesn't really spark anything to us. So I really never. It was never big. It was super generic. What Danny said. Danny said pretty much enough. It's never was one of the biggest good movies. Definitely a four.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give it a 3 because I never liked the Ant Man and the Wasp or Ant Man himself as a character because it was super generic. And yeah, he is an important form of the Infinity War saga, but for what it is, guys, I didn't really care. I don't like any of these characters, and I don't want to watch the new one that's coming out too. And the comedy, you know, what? People shit on like the Marvel films for being like too comedic or whatever, making too many jokes, and this is definitely one of the worst examples of this. So just for that, it's getting a 3.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, next film, uh, that okay. I've been informed that we are on to the next film, Captain Marvel. Now, again, I kind of feel a similar way that I feel Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's fine for what it is. It's not really that good of a film, though. Every scene with Nick Fury and the cat's pretty funny. Uh, there are nice references from time to time to other things, and I kind of like that. Nick Fury's eye doesn't really have some massive tragic story behind it. It's just kind of stupid and silly, and I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, a lot of things are kind of forgettable for the most part. I'm not really going to mention the villains for this movie either, because yeah, Berman's right. The villain in Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't really spark an interest, and neither did the villains in this movie. Um, yeah, and I guess I'll say my other big issue is that I feel like the fights were just really boring in this film. The scrolls are pretty cool on screen, but I feel like there could have been more done in that department too. And yeah, Captain Marvel, I feel like maybe has potential as a character, but that potential isn't fully realized whatsoever in this film, and therefore the character is just not very engaging to me in this film. Um, so yeah, that's all I could really say. Again, it's inoffensive, it's fine, but it's not really that good. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 10 as well.
Yeah. They said enough. The only thing that was redeemable for me, probably only two things, was one, Nick Fury. It was really cool to see him there with like kind of younger version of him, so it was really cool. And the scrolls, I like the scrolls. I like the scrolls in general, and I can't wait for the new show from Scrolls from what's it called, Nick Fury versus Scrolls. Can't wait to watch that. Definitely a four for me.
And you know, I may have given Ant-Man like a really bad score, but Captain Marvel is even worse in this movie. And I love how we're not even talking about like the main character herself because that's how forgettable and vanilla she is. And you know who else is also I know it's super off topic, but this is just like Ray, from Star Wars. If you guys saw that movie,
Yeah.
so like you're just good from the start. I'm like, I have no reason to root for you, and then I'm
Oh,
not.
it is
Hmm?
vibe though. Yeah.
Like she's just good off the bat. I'm like, why do I care? Like obviously this character is just gonna like win at everything, and I'm not gonna forgive this fucking character for what she said in Endgame, because that was one of the biggest slaps in the face. Oh wait, no, it wasn't Endgame. It was her. It was Miss Marvel. If well, we're not gonna talk about that. Saying that, oh, I was the most important Avenger. But anyways, the soundtrack's good. Captain Fury was like all right for what it is. It's very forgettable. The soundtrack's good though, just because it played Nirvana for like 5 seconds, and that's pretty much it. And then her best friend, I forget what her name was, a much better character if anything. She was a little more interesting because she was struggling, being like dealing with her daughter's case, and like her like losing everything was more interesting than Captain Marvel herself. Like it's just like eh. So it's Gator 2. Oh, and one last thing. Like the way that they wrote the men in this fucking movie was actually retarded. It's like every single man that she ever encountered in this whole film was just like, I hate you because you're a woman, and I'm mad because I'm evil. And that was throughout this whole fucking movie, and I'm like, that's not true. You can't write them like that. It's the
I didn't
same
really
shit
think
like
about.
She-Hulk's doing too.
I didn't really think about that, but yeah, the men are kind of retarded in this film.
And they did that shit on purpose. So just for that, skip two. A two.
Oh
Waste of
man.
time. And I saw this shit 2 times.
Oh no.
Two.
That's torture.
Oh man. All right. Now, thankfully, we're gonna bounce back from that mess, and we're gonna talk about, in my opinion, not just one of the best Marvel films. Now, this we're talking about the very best superhero film of all time, Avengers Endgame. Yes, the very best. Better than Civil War. Better than Winter Soldier. Even better than Infinity War. This and that one is debatable. Infinity War and Endgame are practically at the same exact level, in my opinion. They're both easily in my top 5 films of all time. They're both just perfect pieces of work that all of these films have led up to, and it all paid off. It all paid off, especially for the main three: Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. And yeah, maybe it didn't exactly end Thor's story in this film, but that wasn't the point. The point was to end Iron Man and Captain America's the heart and the soul of this franchise. It was to give them the conclusions that they deserved. Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man for 9 films, and it is still to this day up there as Hugh Jackman with Wolverine as the character with the most appearances as a superhero. So, and very very impressive feat that Robert Downey Jr. has overall. And who else to have that feat? Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I've said it before, but now is where I'm really going to say it. Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man is easily one of the best, if not the very best, comic book adaptation ever. It Everything is right about Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark and Iron Man. It all just works. He is able to really play off every single emotion and every single moment that is dealt with this character. And honestly, Chris Evans as Steve Rogers also deserves very similar praise. He took a character that honestly was kind of cheesy and kind of a joke in the comics, and maybe you can argue with me on that one, but that's just always how I've seen it. I was never really able to take Captain America as anybody too serious until these movies happened. And I know, it's kind of that meme where the comics suck. But no, I'm being for real here.
Stop
When
the
you think about
cap.
Thanos, when you think about Thanos from the 80s, Thanos was an actual fucking idiot. His motivation for killing the entire world wasn't some political plan like in Infinity War and Endgame. It was because he was in love with a goddess named Death, and it's actually really fucking stupid.
But she's
And
hot.
honestly, again, Cap is kind of in the comics to me. And yeah, with that being said, these movies were able to take these jokes of characters and turn them into something fantastic on that take. But that's just always how I've seen it. The comics suck when it comes to Thanos, and the comics are cheesy when it comes to Captain America. The comics aren't always perfect, and people need to stop saying that they are, because they are not. And Multiverse of Madness, which we'll get into in a future video, is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So, with all of this stuff being said, Endgame is the top tier superhero film. It is the perfect superhero film. It takes every bad thing about the comics and turns it into something good. And this is a story not entirely from the comics. It's a story of its own, and it's a story that tops the Infinity comics overall. So, with that stuff being said, this is not just a 10 out of 10. This is not just an S tier. This is one of the best films I have ever seen.
Yeah. For me, Danny said enough. The only thing he's going to say is that this is a 15 out of 10. That's all.
This is also a 15 out of 10. Plus, it's gonna be a 20 out of 10 because Captain Marvel gets punched in the fucking face. So it's plus 5 points for Thanos. Thank you.
So, any other comments need to be said about Endgame?
Nope.
This is peak Marvel, and then after this, I felt like the MCU went downhill after this because it's never gonna be the same ever again. This is the last great Marvel movie that we've ever seen so far, and I stand by
I, I
that.
I kind of agree. There is one film in Phase 4 which I thought was also a perfect film. So there is a shining star in Phase 4, but we'll get to that in a future video. For now, this is the last movie in Phase 3, and it's the second movie in the Spider-Man trilogy, Spider-Man Far From Home. In my opinion, the weakest in the trilogy. But with that being said, it's good. I just feel like at the Italy trip, it might be nice and all that, kind of cute, I guess you could say, but I feel like a bit of time is kind of wasted on that personally. And I feel like the film isn't quite consistent with Peter's emotions. Oh, I'm super sad about my mentor's death and someone who was kind of like a father figure to me. But I really want to win this girl over. Like it kind of just goes back and forth, and it kind of just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. It feels like he's mourning, but kind of not mourning, and it feels like it's a bit all over the place. Now, the chemistry between Peter and uh, Michelle in this film, or MJ, you can call her as well. I feel like it works. It works very, very well. And Mysterio, I'm glad Mysterio was finally used in a film because I like Mysterio a lot as a Spider-Man villain, and I feel like Mysterio was done justice in this film. So yeah, that's great. I feel like Spider-Man finally evolves from being Iron Man Jr., kind of from the first film. And obviously, it's all intended. It's all intended to be a slow arc for Spider-Man. And they're just taking their time with making him, the face and golden goose of their new era, which is fine. And he should be the new face and golden goose of the era. He's my favorite superhero, and I'm just glad that Spider-Man's getting that sort of recognition in a way. So with all of that stuff being said, I feel like it also does a good job at explaining everything after game as well. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, for me, Spider-Man Far From Home was great. I love Mysterio. To me, I love Mysterio is kind of it's like that. Like first, you see him as like, oh yeah, he's from a different, like a multiverse. He was like, yeah, I'm from a different timeline as you, or a different place than you. And then he just comes out to say, no, I'm supposed to lying the whole time. I'm just a guy trying to get revenge. Dark. But it was a funny thing that it's a good twist. I love that they kind of they showed a little bit. It looked like the elementals. And I love the elemental looks and everything. The villain, amazing. The romance definitely works. I love it. It works very funny, and I love the part I remember with Ned. It was very funny. We didn't discuss it, but Ned had a relationship with like a popular girl, and made me laugh because it's like those two never like looked like they would ever connect, and they did in this movie, which kind of made everyone probably have shocked or something. It was very funny. I love the relationship with Ned and that blonde. I forgot her name. It was perfect. I loved how they did explain like how what happened after the snap, like the reverse snap, that everyone came back, but they all looked younger or older, so it was really confused time. So it was very good how they kind of related that after the end game, and I think this movie evolved from the Far from Homecoming into one of its own movies that shows how good Spider-Man is with and Tom Holland is. So this definitely is 7.5 for me.
And yeah, I'll agree with Burby because like literally Ned was the best part of this whole film. Mysterio was good, but the only complaint I had, and maybe it's because he was grieving, like what Daniel said before, but Peter's kind of an idiot in this movie because Tony Stark trusts him with like the glasses that pretty much controls like all the droids throughout the whole movie, and he's like, you know what, this random guy has been really nice to me. He's a father figure, and I don't want to be a superhero. I'm just gonna give these terroristic glasses to this random dude I haven't met in my
Yeah, it's
life.
idiotic.
And maybe because he's like you said before, he's grieving or whatever, he's not thinking straight. But I thought that was kind of stupid. And like all of this could have been prevented if he would have just like kept it to himself. But I get it. And then his whole love interest with MJ, it wasn't really that great. Ned overshadows that by quite a bit. For what it is, it's okay. It's not it's not harmful or anything. So you know what, a 6. It's above average.
And overall, I would give this phase an A minus. It is an amazing phase. It is the best phase Marvel has done so far. There is still a bit of MCU bullshit here and there, but overall, fantastic phase. What would you guys grade the overall phase?
An A minus too.
Same here. Just like 3 bad films, but it's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, we will be reviewing phase 4 in the future. very soon. We're waiting until Wakanda Forever releases. So, thank you all so much for watching. I've been Daniel.
It's been Berman.
Oh, I'm Berman. No, you're Chris. I'm Chris. All right, later.
All right, and we'll see you all in the next video. Take it easy.